Okay, I am going to start. Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Diffenderfer. I'm president of the Belle Isle Residents Association. We appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight. I would like to introduce Miami-Dade Mayor Daniella Levine Cava. She was elected Miami-Dade County's first ever woman mayor in November of 2020. Prior to that, she served on the county commission since 2014 for District 8. She has a bachelor's in psychology from Yale and graduate degrees in law and social work from Columbia University. She entered politics after nearly 40 years serving our community in a variety of roles. She was an advocate for special needs children and immigrants at Legal Services of Greater Miami and helped children in the child welfare system as associate and legal director for the Guardian Ad Litem program. She's been on numerous boards, committees, panels, and foundations over the years, way too many to talk about tonight. Mayor Cava understands the importance of protecting our environment and our water. She values and helped expand police presence in underserved areas, advocates for expanded and reliable public transportation, affordable housing, and she's helped make our government more accountable and transparent. Since the coronavirus pandemic began, Mayor Cava has advocated for better public health response and worked to bring federal CARES money to our county to help struggling families and small businesses and get our economy back on track. Born in New York, she's lived in Latin America and has been a resident of South Florida since 1980, where she's raised her 2 children with her husband, Dr. Robert Cava. As Miami-Dade County's mayor, Daniella Levine Cava oversees a metropolitan government with more than 28,000 employees, serving nearly 3 million residents, and managing an annual budget of approximately $9 billion. And there are 34 municipalities within our county. Mayor Cava, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Scott, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you. And I am joined here by quite a few stellar members of the county family. So J.D. Patterson, our Chief of Public Safety, Jim Murley, who's our Chief Resilience Officer. I'm not sure who else, Laura Dominguez.
I'm on the Bureau board.
Okay, I was like, you work with us, Laura? I hope so. Okay. Anyway, it is really great to be with you. I am mayor for 100 and a few days, and it is Women's History Month. Yesterday was International Women's Day, so I feel pretty jazzed about it. And yesterday I was asked in our town hall for 100 days, what was the best surprise that I've had as mayor? And I said it was the warm welcome that I have received in every corner, from county employees to community members, business leaders, people on the street. It feels like people are excited to have a change. I'm really excited to be that change. And I think in our first 100 days, we've proven that we're here and we mean business. We're gonna move forward in a new way. So delightful to be with civic and community activists. I came inside government to help make sure that people in the community were heard in government, have a voice in government, and so you are proving the purpose every single day. And so happy to partner with you as we move forward. So every day I'm working very hard to help us get through this pandemic. I have focused on lives and livelihoods. Most of my time in the start of my administration, first making sure we were taking adequate protections, and that we still are. Fortunately, we are doing better right now when it comes to the spread of COVID, the hospitalizations, the positivity rate, but we're not out of the woods yet. In the meantime, the answer to this is the vaccine. And with the help of the federal government, we've been able to really gear up dramatically the doses, and we have vaccinated almost over 420,000 shots have gone in people's arms right here in Miami-Dade County. We're at about 55% or so of the people over 65 have been vaccinated. And of course, now we've expanded categories. Teachers and police over 50, people with special health conditions of any age, although that can only be done at certain locations, and of course our firefighters and our healthcare workers. So we've been making some great progress getting shots in arms, but I have been fighting heroically, I have to say, to get more, and feel good that the federal government is coming to town. If you've had a chance to see or learn anything about the Miami-Dade College North Campus, it is really awe-inspiring. They're able to do 5,000 shots per day, and another 1,000 with some mobile units. It's quite impressive. We're up to about 85,000 doses per day across the county. So with that, we are going to get there quicker and keep the contagion rate and certainly the death and the illness rate down. So during this time, we've also moved forward on other parts of the important agenda, starting with the environment. And I know you're all going to be environmentally savvy. We all live in a place that depends on, for example, clean water as our bulwark of our economy, but also for our health. And I'm looking at the beautiful picture behind Scott and just reminded, and behind Scott, two Scotts, both Scotts have beautiful vistas of our incredible paradise that we call home. And we know we need to defend and protect it. We all saw the dead sea life that rose to the surface thanks to the pollution and the rising lack of oxygen in the bay. And of course, I am the water warrior, so fighting hard as ever. We have been grateful to the governor who came and offered us $10 million match for $10 million we put up for some of the infrastructure projects that will protect the Bay. And we're hoping for many times that amount in this year's legislative session. I just got back from Tallahassee lobbying for that and feeling hopeful that we'll be able to get some good money and move some major infrastructure projects forward, particularly with our septic to sewer, which is a key part of the problem that with rising seas, the septic overflow creating pollution in the waterways. We also launched our sea level rise strategy, groundbreaking in the country last week, and we are going to build in a more resilient way moving forward. Obviously, this costs us, but we will build those costs into the future plans, and it is really necessary to protect our valuable infrastructure. We actually are the community in the world with the highest assets at risk from sea level rise. So we need to be aggressive, and we will be. Also, 6 cruise lines and FPL signed on to converting to shore power for our cruise industry. And while the ships are in port, they've been belching black smoke, and we're going to move away from that. Praise the Lord. So very happy about that. Now, talking about the economy, which has to come back along with our lives, our livelihoods, we have launched Renew 305, which is going to not only support the existing businesses who've struggled so through this pandemic, but bring in the new economy, tech, other fintech, biomedicine, all kinds of things that are cutting edge. We have a lot of people excited to move here. Maybe you've heard real estate values are going up, but we need to do it in a way that is equitable, that makes sure that our local talent is in the pipeline, that we have the training programs, the apprenticeship programs, that we bring our talented high school students to the college and graduate programs that have now been endowed by the Knight Foundation with huge grants to FIU, and so on. So Renew 305 has all of that built into it. We're going to, this is an acronym, Renew 305, revive our entrepreneurship ecosystem. E for explore initiatives to bring back our tourism safely, which of course we are already doing pretty well on that front. Build a network, the N, of CEOs and business leaders ready to invest in the future, which includes, by the way, a CEO ambassador program where CEOs are reaching out to their friends in other places and luring them here, not just for that second home, but to actually relocate their business. And we're rolling out the red carpet for them. We're going to strike economic partnerships, the E for our scale-ups, our startups and scale-ups. And the W for workforce, we're investing in our workforce, upskill these, I'm learning so many new words, upskilling our residents to take on the jobs of the future. So to make sure we do it equitably, we have our new Office of Equity and Inclusion, which is going to address county equity, procurement, contracting, hiring, advancement, but also work across the county with others that are focused on equity. That's racial, ethnic, religious, gender, sexual preference, disability, every kind of cross diversity that we have that we're so proud of. We're going to make sure that those opportunities abound. I feel really good. I feel really positive that we've rounded the corner, and that's why we call it renew and not recover. There's also a Cava plan, CAVA, that was invented by some smart marketing people at the Transit Alliance. They wanted me to commit to making transit improvements, so they named it after me, but I was going to do it anyway. And it includes embracing the Better Bus Project to improve our bus system and make it more efficient and reliable for especially the most popular routes, dedicated safe for bicycle lanes, so critical because we do have a high pedestrian and bicycle injury and death rate. Investing in our smart plan corridors, those are the new ones that will be for choice riders as well as everyday riders. Leaving your car behind will now be the new smart thing to do, and advancing pedestrian safety. We also have a major public engagement program called Thrive 305. Hopefully many of you have completed that survey. 27,000 of you did, 1% of the population. We're going to be crafting that into feedback to the community, get final overview, and then develop some action plans. So it's been a whirlwind of 100 and a few days, but we feel really proud of the work we've done, but very eager to move forward to make all of the improvements that our community needs. So I'm very happy to take any questions depending on your time. And thank you so much again.
Thank you very much. What a bizarre and crazy time to become mayor of this county during this coronavirus. I remember meeting
Kind
you
of true. Yes,
when you
yes.
started your campaign, and we were talking about sea level rise and economy, and we could have never dreamed that this would come up like this. Before I go on, I'd like to let everyone know that we have State Representative Michael Grieco has joined us.
Oh,
And we
great.
have Commissioners Mark Samuelin and Michael Gongora from Miami Beach. So thank you, commissioners and representative. We really appreciate it. Anyway, back to our challenges, priorities. We just got $1 billion announced to be split between the county and the municipalities from the feds. Where do you see that money?
So you mean by the federal government, the rescue plan?
Yes, yes. Where do you see that money going?
Right. Well, first of all, I had to push the reset button on our relationships with the cities. I'm not the kind of person that likes to get into a fight. I like to get along and plan and collaborate. So, you know, I've already been in close contact with my city colleagues and my state as well. However, the federal government decided that they'd give money separately to the cities and to the county. So we're not going to have to fight over that particular pot of money, which is good because we all need the money. We're going to be developing a plan in short order that will focus on exactly how we can jumpstart the economy as well as keep our services intact. So, you know, remains to be seen, but we had quite a variety, quite a menu of programs that we developed with the CARES Act, that everything from housing assistance, we know we have to help renters and homeowners and landlords, which we do have also money from the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, or ERAP, 60 million, which we're rolling out this month. We also have to make sure that we feed people. We need to continue to provide the basics for those who are still hardest hit. We need to help our small businesses get back on their feet and provide job relief. And we want to make sure that our county doesn't have to cut back basic services. So some of this is going to be used for police, fire, parks, anything basic that really is going to face downturn because of reduced revenues from sales tax and property tax.
Okay. we have so little time and so many questions, but I want to hit some big things real quick if we may. Let's start with transportation. What's the latest that you understand about the proposed train or over the bay from Miami to Miami Beach? This has been ongoing for many years, starts and fits, and people
Yes.
for it, people against it. What's the latest you hear, and where do you stand on that?
Well, they're in the middle of conducting all the engineering that is needed to move forward with an elevated system. So we are going to be, I believe, within the year, having all of that data so that we can make the final choice. But it will be an elevated system. Commissioner Eileen Higgins, who represents, of course, southern part of Miami Beach, as well as parts of Miami, it now chairs our Transportation and Mobility Committee. She's very adamant that we're going to move forward, and so am I. So we know that needs to be delivered. Some of the final choices are still to be made, but it is committed, and we're doing it.
And what do you say to the people that are opposed to it on Miami Beach?
Well, I would say it's coming. I guess is what I would say. There are still choices to be made, like I say, like exactly where it will end and exactly what the connectivity will be. So I think there's still room for input on ways to make sure that it is most compatible with current uses on the beach.
And we're talking like 10 years out at this point, right? At least?
Oh, I don't know about that. That's a really good question. I don't have that information in front of me as to what's predicted. Of course, we're going to hope for a mix of federal, state, and private dollars, but I don't think we're talking 10 years.
Okay.
I hate to, I have a crystal ball here. I'm going to go look to it, but no.
So I may be able to get it before I stop driving. Uh, it's ironic that we've really had so less traffic since COVID until the last couple of months. And I drove from Aventura to Miami Beach the other day at noon, and it was gridlocked again. So we're back to, it seems
We
like we're
are.
back to that.
Well, also lots of visitors. Let's say that.
Lots of visitors. So one of our questions with transportation, as you well know, the county is in charge of some roads that are within Miami Beach and other municipalities, and they're
Yes.
in charge of all the traffic signalization. I know you know this. Cities and the county have not always played well, and FDOT as well. So when you throw these three institutions into trying to work our little city, we often have the county do some things without our knowledge, without our input, that we just hate, that seem to screw things up. What can we do about that? Can you help us? Or?
Yes, that's certainly something that I can tackle. I can tell you, for example, that any kind of infrastructure projects that the county is doing, I've made sure that the commissioners of the district get way advance notice, because it springs up on commissioners. I remember when I was a commissioner, suddenly they're tearing up the roads and the residents are going nuts, and nobody really knew about it and prepared for it. So we certainly need, and there's all kinds of plans and master plans, and we will always make sure that stakeholders are included. So I've got people here taking notes, and we need to take note on that to make sure for me to review. It's a good little task for me to do, to review the different planning processes and infrastructure to make sure what is the point at which we include municipalities to make sure that there's plenty of opportunity for input. So, my Thrive 305 is an ample evidence, I think, that I plan to do things differently, and I do.
That's wonderful to hear, and I know transportation's always been a big thing for you, and that you understand it and have been involved in it. So
Yeah.
unlike a lot of people that come into these roles. Okay, so then we're going to move quickly to environmental stuff, and the sewer, the septic tanks are a big problem. We also have all these derelict vessels off the coast. The state law preempts allowing local control unless we have these mooring fields, and you can just take a look out the window and we can see all these boats that we know are not properly disposing of their waste. What nobody's enforcing any of this. They say they have to catch them in the act, and there's nobody out there looking for them to catch in the act. So, this is a problem. They're not paying taxes. They're not moored up. Would you support, the city's been talking a lot about putting in mooring fields. I know we have it off Coconut Grove. Can the county be involved in that in any way, assist with that? And what are your thoughts?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm reminded that I have our Chief Resilience Officer on this call, so I'm going to ask him to chime in. But I know there's also a piece of legislation that Senator Pizzo told me, I believe he's bringing, that would be allow us to be more aggressive about those sort of rogue moorings. And as far as setting up moorings, I don't know the process for that or who regulates it. So let's find out about it. And maybe Jim has something to say. But also we have been removing derelict vessels and did some last, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago with our Chief Bay Officer, Irela Bagay, who, is her personal mission to make our bay shine. So we're going to be actively engaged in that. Jim, you want to add something to that? Can you unmute yourself, or does someone need to unmute him?
I think I can unmute myself, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Well, I think you covered it well. And actually, this evening we had a committee meeting of the full commission, Port and Environmental Resilience, and they passed an urging on that very thing, derelict funding that you just mentioned. So I think that when you get out on the water, I think the gentleman probably know that you get a mix of state and local regulations, and especially with the state basically licensing the boats and being the primary responsible agency for mooring. Now, the mooring field depends on who owns the submerged lands, and down at Coconut Grove, those were city submerged lands. So I think we can work with you. I know that in our Division of Environmental Resource Management, Mayor, you'd have people that could be of direct assistance with the city of Miami Beach and with the appropriate state officials.
Great. Well, we're gonna reach out to you. While we're on that, I'd like to also let you know, just for your information, that there's a group of citizens here, residents, that are upset. We have a lot of speeding and reckless boats right off our shore here. There's a lot of wildlife, in the bay off of Belle Isle, and there's very little patrol. So we are working to get a no wake zone established between the Venetian and the MacArthur causeways, because that's a big problem area with both boat traffic and danger for paddleboarders and wildlife, as well as noise. We have a lot of noise, crazy party boats that have been happening since COVID. Actually, it's gotten really bad the last few months, and the city is doing some enforcement. We've been working with them, but we definitely like to reach out to the county and the state. It's always pass the buck kind of thing when there's all these municipalities and organizations involved. So we just want to let you know that that's one of our priorities here.
So Jim, can you help follow up on all of that?
I can do. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. And I didn't mention, but I'm also working closely with the League of Cities, and very eager to continue to have conversations across the boundaries where we can all work together on these common issues. And we're going to be setting up a call with the League of Cities. Yeah. Yes, we're going to be setting up a call with the League of Cities. That was George Andrews, who's my senior advisor for policy and planning, is going to do that for us. And we're going to talk about water projects, for example, to make sure that we're coordinating so we can bring down all the big bucks from Tallahassee.
It's wonderful to hear. Let me ask you one. Okay, I know your time is short, so I'm trying to open up. There's one other thing I wanted to ask you. Do we have any questions, Scott, that we want to open up to the residents right now that we have not covered? Oh, you know what? One more thing, Mayor Cava, if I may. A big issue right now in Tallahassee, and particularly in Miami Beach, is the preemption of control of short-term and vacation rentals by the state. You probably know in Miami Beach, we've had a lot of problems and a lot of lawsuits over short-term rentals and its control. And just curious how the county sees this and what role locals are playing in advocating or fighting this ordinance? What do you think?
So I was in Tallahassee last week and I spoke to quite a few about the preemption. We don't like preemption generally. We like to be left alone. um, so, you know, we want to be able to have, hold on one second. Okay, so I'm being reminded that the delegation is split on this issue. So we're having, you know, with the delegation split, and it's not just a Miami-Dade issue, right?
Right.
And so that means that we're likely to get preempted. So we really need to, if we want to change that, we really need to work on our state electeds. Maybe Representative Greco has something to say on that score. But my personal feeling is that we need to do more enforcement. And that's another thing we do need to follow up, because you know, if we don't have our code enforcement people working evenings or weekends with the biggest violations, you know, then the neighbors are left, you know, bearing the brunt of it, because we should be able to regulate noise, parking, different things that that demonstrate that the property is being used in a manner that's not compatible with the neighborhood.
Do you have a couple more minutes for us to open up to some residents right now? I know your time is short.
I don't know. Let me check my calendar. Yes, it's okay. I have a few more minutes. Yes.
Thank you so much. Scott, do you want to open up the question, Scott and Laura, and see, and
Sure.
let anybody else have a question?
Okay, there's one hand raised right now. That's Mark Samulin. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. No hard question here. Just a quick thank you to Mayor Levine Cava for joining us. Thank you for the partnership with the city of Miami Beach, and congratulations on your incredible start. I appreciate everything Vera continues to do, and bringing speakers like Levine Cava is amazing. So nice to see you, Daniella.
Thank you for this shout out. Wonderful. And I did get a chance to tour Saturday with Mayor Gelber, the party scene on Ocean Drive. So, you know, the county has been extremely supportive of the city of Miami Beach in the necessary patrolling and enforcement, and just an example of how we want to be good neighbors. So we did assign additional officers through the county. Our corrections department has been very supportive. We've sent our ambassadors, which are volunteers from county staff, to go. So anything we can do to help out, we're here, and you know, we want to help each other out.
Okay, and while you're looking for another question, I want to go back to the environment for a minute. You know, ever since China stopped accepting recyclables, we understand that we are not recycling like we think we are. And yet we still have all these recycling bins in place. And I watch this go on, and I think that I understand that really, other than some plastic containers, we're not recycling at all. Do you want to speak to that? And you know, it's a waste of doing, if we're just throwing away, to actually be recycling and separating.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this topic. It's one of my favorite topics, my favorite vexing topics. We are still recycling. I mean, there is still a market for the products that we do recycle. The problem really is that our people are doing a terrible job of recycling. So we are something like, I hesitate to say this, but something like 20% compliant, meaning that what goes into the bins is the wrong stuff.
Right.
When the wrong stuff goes into the bins, it spoils the whole batch. And I've been known to go through my neighbor's bins and pick out the wrong stuff. And we are looking at some ways to simplify it. You know, maybe if we just limit it to bottles and paper, you know, we could make it simpler instead of that, because I still look at the picture and hunt and peck to see, you know, will this qualify, will that not qualify? And the everyday person really has what we call aspirational recycling. You know, if they think it should be recyclable, they put it in the bin, and then it does spoil the lot for everyone. So the contract that we have is going to expire, and it's really costing the company money because we're doing such a bad job of recycling. So we're going to have to come up with a new solution, and we're going to need the public to be very engaged in picking something that we can really make work. And of course, the real thing is to get rid of waste. You know, we should be composting. We shouldn't be using refillable containers. And Jim, since you're here, and I'll mention to you, we do need to follow up with our Mr. Pino, who's the refillable king, and see what we could do to move that agenda forward. We need to really start to get to zero waste. We're running out of landfill, and we certainly don't want to. We have waste to energy. We burn a lot of stuff. It does produce energy. It's not great for the environment. We just really need to reduce our waste. What is it? Reuse, recycle, reuse, and reduce.
Yeah, I think it's a big communication thing, because I think I live in a condo and I see the same way. Things are filled with.
Condos don't even typically have recycling facilities. Right. And in fact, I had to pass legislation as a commissioner that future buildings would have to create space for recycling.
That's awesome. That's
Yes.
awesome. Okay, do we have any more questions, Scott, to ask before we?
I'll ask one. So Mayor, often those of us in Miami Beach are very active in local issues, and I mean local Miami Beach. We're not active at the county level in many cases. It's really exciting to meet you and to hear about your agenda. So what could we do as citizens of Miami Beach to help you? We read a lot about dysfunction at your commission level. For example, I mean, what are some practical things that we as citizens can do to help you?
Well, thank you for that, Scott. And, you know, every elected office has its own unique challenges, but, you know, there's a lot of politics, and we just try to be the best when it comes to proactive policy and practice. And I'm very proud of the work that the county does. For example, Jim Murley, as our Chief Resilience Officer, is a key part of the whole resilience collaboration with the city of Miami and the city of Miami Beach. They were together on 100 resilient cities from Rockefeller, but also on our climate compact, which is a multi-county effort. So there's lots and lots of great planning going on. And my own belief is that we need to work collaboratively across these municipalities to have more aligned policy and then work together to achieve it. And, you know, I moved the Office of Resilience to my office. I would say it was buried in county government. It demonstrated the lack of commitment and prioritization of those issues. And so Jim is like close to me by my side, so that we can be more aggressive. And then we have to move that forward through the elected body, the commission. Well, of course I'm elected too, but move it through the policy arm of the county. So we're gonna need your help. We're gonna need you to follow us. Like, we have a fertilizer ordinance coming up. Commissioner Higgins, it was mine, and I passed it to her because I am no longer writing laws. So she's bringing forward a fertilizer ordinance, and it will face resistance. We're going to need you to lobby commissioners and create public demand to do the right thing. And we'll have plenty of other opportunities for you to do the same.
Awesome. Anything else that we can help you with? Because as you know, I think you know, we voted for you over 70% on the Venetian Causeway here. So you really
love you, Venetian Causeway. Hey, yeah. You're getting in some little alligators. What? Crockett, no. You're getting special delineators for a protected bike lane across the Venetian.
Oh, we are.
Yes.
It's because
Oh, nobody told me, right? Good example of what you were saying before. There's been an outcry from the bicycling community, right? I mean, obviously there have been some bad accidents on Venetian, on the bridge. And I don't have the details, but Jim, let's get it to them, right? Yeah, and it's the first of something that we're going to start using around the county that will, it's not a total barrier, but it's much better than just painting things in the middle of the road. That will be a protective device for a bicycle.
yeah, the Venetian has been the only way for bicycles. It's really quite a travesty that both the MacArthur and the Tuttle are such dangerous wide roads with no bicycle lanes like the Rickenbach or anything. So yeah, that's one of the things that we sorely need some more.
You're making me think as to the design of the elevated system crossing MacArthur. I do not know what bicycle infrastructure, if any, is planned.
It would be lovely to include some, like,
Yes.
in Europe, they have elevated
Yes.
ones. The underline is a wonderful thing that's happening now.
Underline, and we're working on Rickenbacker, the Z plan, hopefully moving forward. But let's find out, Jim, as well. I'm tasking you with all these things. If there's a plan, and if not, let's see what we can do to include that.
Mayor, there was one last question on, since you mentioned elevated transit. The question was, in addition to the MacArthur undertaking, is there any discussion, serious discussion going on with elevated transit going either north up 95? Is the county engaged in any way on those sorts of development topics?
Nothing on I-95 that I know about. Are you talking about roadways, elevated roadways?
No, public, like
transit. No. There is some talk about the mover going north a bit, up Biscayne or up 2nd Avenue, but not for any substantial distance. We do have, of course, the express lane on I-95, and we have now added an express lane on 836. And Brightline will be going up the Northeast Corridor eventually. And we have bids coming in on the North Corridor of 27th Avenue. So those are the corridors under review.
Okay. Well, Mayor Levine, Cava, I know you've given us more time than.
No, it's my pleasure. Again, Citizens Unite. Yay. Thank you so much for your activism.
And we really appreciate it.
Okay, and JD is on, our Chief of Public Safety, but just in case you needed to know anything about our aggressive efforts to protect you, that would be JD. All right, thank you, everybody. Good night.
You have a good evening. Okay, with that, I will open the questions. If anybody has any questions for the Belle Isle Board at this point, and anybody who's left on the panel from the mayor's office, we'd be happy to take it. I see some questions. Scott, can you?
Someone asked for my email address, which is I put back in the chat. So we'd be glad to brief you on anything we're doing in the Office of Resilience, or be your connection to other offices. And so noted by the mayor, we'll follow up on those items that we discussed. But
can we ask you about, what about charging stations for electric cars in the county and expanding that?
we are very focused on that. We would, as we look at our long-term, these over decades, opportunities to reduce greenhouse gases, a conversion to electric vehicles is going to be a major play. And of course, part of that is an expanding market that can provide choices to our citizens with different price ranges, so that they can make the choice. And then when they do, they need a place to charge. So in our public garages, we're moving to make sure that is accomplished. In other permitted private garages, we're asking that at a minimum, they be EV ready, so that the conduits and the power lines are there, because there's another set of private installers who are responsible for the chargers, besides Tesla. So And that's an active field. There's a lot of people that would like to see this happen. And, we have purchased and ordered in the transportation field about 35 new electric buses. And I think that order can increase over time. So we'll be moving it's been the direction of the mayor that we move the bus fleet towards electric support, also electric energy.
How dependable are those electric buses? Do you remember the electric wave on Miami Beach?
I do, yeah. Well, in that case, the entire company sort of went under, as I remember. I'm a little sketchy on the historical details, maybe others know them better, but I do remember, I wrote it as a resident. I think we're now at a point where, you have a much broader set of companies building these buses, and they're in demand, and I think they're going to be more reliable. But I think that's something we'll all be watching. Our new compressed natural gas fleet is operating pretty well, and that's kind of a bridge from diesel to natural gas over to finally to electric.
Yeah, much nicer than the diesel. Any other things you want to share with us that the county's working on right now that might be of interest?
Well, I in the absence of our chief bay officer, I just want to underline what our mayor said. Rella Begay started just about 2 months ago, and we have a plan that was done by a task force. And now County Commissioner Sosa has taken the lead in passing legislation. They'll be creating a Biscayne Bay Watershed Board that'll have 3 county commissioners and 3 city commissioners on it, and others. So I think you're going to see a real concentrated effort to bring back the environmental quality of the bay, but also to address the issues that you raised earlier, the ones that come from the actions on the bay from boating and many other activities. The water is why we're here, and we have a responsibility to be good stewards of that. And I think we let our guard down at the county level. We needed to really understand how important the bay is, and that's the direction we're headed under the mayor's leadership. So I would definitely say maybe at a future meeting, I know that Arella Begay would love to come and talk to you about her plans.
That would be awesome. A good suggestion. I will definitely reach out to her.
So, Mr. Murley, there's also examples of the bay being polluted by, all sorts of garbage. And we've worked with the city. One of our residents has been instrumental in getting additional garbage cans so that people don't just throw things as they're walking along the Venetian Causeway. But also a question about all these construction projects, including one we have right here on our island, where these food trucks show up and the people eat their food, the workers eat their food and they discard everything and it just flies out. It goes into the bay, it pollutes the water. Are there any county restrictions about how food like that, how these food trucks operate? This has been going on here for literally 2 years now.
I quite honestly do not know how they are regulated. You certainly see more of them out there at construction sites and other places. I don't know if Commissioner Semillian has any better information from the city standpoint. I will research it from the county standpoint and get back to you.
Okay, great. And another question that someone asked Mr. Murley is, we've all read about Elon Musk and his boring operation. I have no idea if you have insight into that, but is that something people should take seriously, or
well, I don't. He's quite a character, and I don't think we should probably not take serious anything he does, because he's accomplished quite a bit. We have some unusual circumstances that I'm sure they can be worked through, but it's not like tunneling in Las Vegas. I think if you just look at the tunnel, the very successful public-private partnership that built the tunnel from MacArthur over to the port, And, you know, that's still operated by the tunnel company long-term. And the thing that when I'm asked, you know, what are some examples of where the county has spent additional money to ensure that we're protecting ourselves from future hurricanes and storm surge and sea level rise, I point to the tunnel because at both ends, at both portals, are large structures which contain large iron gates, which are dropped closing the tunnel off during a storm. When the Coast Guard commander closes the port, those tunnel gates come down. And so if we were tunneling anywhere else in our community, especially near the shoreline, those structures would have to be modified or somehow we'd need that have to happen. So I guess that's a good engineers can figure all this out. But I think we have those things that are different here in our environment that will have to be factored in. But I know the city of Fort Lauderdale and the city of Miami are quite actively looking at this. Mayor Suarez, I believe, is on point and trying to understand if it is feasible or not. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of due diligence before anybody decides to do a contract.
We have a few hands raised, so if you have some time, I'll pick on some of the residents here in order of when they raise their hands. Nikki Goldbeck. Nikki?
Yeah, I didn't mean to raise my hand. I posted a question.
We got it.
Wonderful. Okay, next one is David Leeds. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, since the mayor mentioned it and it's something I have a private interest and I try to save, recycle everything and
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, the Scott and Scott, I think the Island Association Board drew up a list of priorities in different categories. And I think something the mayor mentioned about recycling, which is something I'm interested in. Maybe we could learn what's do's and don'ts and try to pass it along the buildings and make that one of our major projects to help the environment. I think we have a meeting in a couple of weeks. Maybe we can put that on the agenda to discuss and how we get that information. I know, for example, I know this is kind of, I remember a few years ago, we thought styrofoam was something to be recycled. Now, somebody I learned, read somewhere or heard that's not something. So I'm sure a lot of people don't know really what can and cannot be or should and shouldn't be recycled. And that we should put that on the top category of our objectives.
Well, thank you, David. And yeah, Jim, I'm so glad you attended this meeting because I look forward to staying in touch with you. I know what an important subject the environment is to this administration, and it's really great to see you elevated to this position and working so closely with the mayor. So I know you'll be hearing from us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to connect, and I will do some follow-up and have a great evening, unless there's more questions that I can help with.
There's two more questions.
Okay.
Sean Patrick.
Yes, can you hear me, Laura?
Yes.
First of all, I think it's a great meeting. Thank you to the Bureau Board for putting this on. It was an excellent meeting. And thanks, Jim, for being on here and providing your email address. I just want to do a very quick follow-up to Scott Van Hove's comment on the food trucks. I run all the Venetian Islands every other day, and we do have a lot of new home construction. And so my concern is these food trucks that pull up, you know, the silver box on the trucks and they beep the horn. They're serving food on styrofoam containers with plastic utensils. And when they leave and when the food is done, the styrofoam containers go to the ground with the plastic forks, and it blows through the neighborhood and it blows into the bay. I was always told that we have like laws and rules against styrofoam. I don't know if there's a loophole that they've found that doesn't pertain to them, and I'll send you an email follow-up after this, but it really is a serious problem when you think that there's, you know, 25 homes being built on the Venetian Islands, And the food truck goes there 2 times a day, and all this styrofoam is just dropped on the ground.
Yeah,
Point-
like I will definitely try to find out the appropriate bodies in the county and the city and follow up for you, because now you got me really curious. I'm not, it's not an issue I had on my table before.
Our
We'll
last
follow up.
question, oh, sorry
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt.
No problem.
Our last question is from Wendy and Gary.
Good evening. I would like to thank you for all being there and a great meeting. Just a quick comment about the short-term rentals. The legislature is now meeting and committees are voting on it. Our own rep, Michael Grieco, is very strong with us to keep it local control. Jason Pizzo, our senator, has a mixed community of areas that want the short-term rentals. We need to send letters up to Tallahassee. We gave you all that list. Laura and Scott and I sent it out to you. Please write them. Last year, the governor was very strong and wanted us to keep local control. So the legislature did follow the governor's lead. So please send letters. This vote will be coming up in a couple of weeks, and we need to stop it from happening. Think about 31 Island Avenue, right across the street. There is 180 apartments coming up for rent. If the owner is unable to rent all those apartments and those bills get passed, that means they can be short-term rentals. And that would not be good for Belle Isle. So thank you. Please write.
Thank you for bringing up that, Gary. And on that note, Jim, who you have nothing to do with short-term rentals, as Chief Resilience Officer, we're delighted that you were here tonight. So thank you so much for your time, and we will definitely be in touch.
Thanks so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. And to everybody else, I want to thank you again for joining us. Look out, we will definitely have another one of these upcoming with the city manager of Miami Beach, Raul. He has said he will definitely come back. He was ill last time. So again, thanks for joining so much. If you're not signed up for our email list, please do. You can go to our website, belleisleresidence.org, and there's a link to sign up, either to be on our board or to get on our email list if you're not on it. So again, thanks for being here. Scott and Laura, thank you so much for helping us host this. And commissioners, thank you. And Michael Grieco, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And good night.